Hi, friends. It is almost one of my favorite holidays in the whole entire world, Thanksgiving. So we're going to be learning over the next few days in our social studies class about the first Thanksgiving. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the Pilgrims in the Plymouth colony of 1620. So this was a long, long time ago, friends. Pilgrims come to America in the let me move this down here or over here maybe. In the mid-1600s, a religious group called the Separatists tried to separate from the Church of England. The Church of England. In the beginning, England was a Catholic country, but later King Henry VIII started a new church called the Official Church of England. So at one time it was a Catholic country, but this guy right here, King Henry VIII, he started a new church called the Official Church of England. The Separatists did not agree with the Church of England and wanted to separate from the church. So like here in America, we're allowed to go to any church we want and believe what we want, but at that time they were forced to go to King Henry VIII's church, and the Separatists didn't like that. Religion was very important to England. To prove his power, King James began attacking and punishing people who did not follow the official church. So again, they had to do what he said or else he would get in trouble. One of the most famous separatist groups were the Pilgrims. They wanted religious freedom. They wanted to be able to go to whatever church they want and things like that. So we call one of the most famous separatist group is called Pilgrims. Pilgrims asked to go to Virginia. Eventually, the Pilgrims went to the Virginia Company to ask for help. They wondered if the company would be willing to give them a ship so they could settle in America and start their own colony. So they wanted to leave England and they needed a ship that they were going to take to America and start their own new world. In 1618, the Virginia Company agreed to help the Pilgrims get to America and settle in on the company's land. So they agreed to give them a ship and help them get to America. The Mayflower. So behind here you can see the ship the Mayflower, and it says after 2 years and several problems, the Pilgrims finally boarded a ship called the Mayflower. The Mayflower was to take them across the Atlantic Ocean to America. So these are all the Pilgrims. They're getting ready to go on the Mayflower to go to America to start their new world. Originally, there were two ships, the Mayflower and a smaller Speedwell. However, something was wrong with the Speedwell. All the Pilgrims now had to get on the Mayflower. This made it even more crowded, dark, and cramped. So can you imagine going on this little ship with all of these people? And it was going to take a long, 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 long time to get there. So this was a hard trip ahead of them. So what did the Pilgrims eat while they were on the Mayflower? Their main diet consisted mostly of hard biscuits, which you see right here, salted pork, dried meats, and moldy oatmeal. So it wasn't very yummy. It doesn't sound very good to me. And because they were eating things like this, for 2 months, conditions on the ship were very bad. It was dark, wet, and cramped. The ceiling of the ship was only about 5 feet tall, so everyone had to hunch over. People often got seasick. And not to mention the things they were eating also got them sick too. During late November, several storms began to hit the Mayflower. The strong winds broke through the sails and pushed the Mayflower far north and off its course. So see, there's the Mayflower. It's in the rough waters, and they were just trying to get to America to start a new world. See some more pictures of this. On November 9th, 1620, the Mayflower's crew spotted land. It was the first land they had seen in more than 2 months. However, the Pilgrims aboard the ship knew that they had landed outside the area the Virginia Company controlled, which could be dangerous. So they knew an area that they wanted to go to, but where they landed and saw the land, it was out of the Virginia Company's control. So they were a little nervous because it might be dangerous. So the Pilgrims had landed in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. They named their new colony town Plymouth after the town they left in England. So this is a picture of it. Building Plymouth 1620. Right away, the Pilgrims went to work building their colony. So when they got there, there was nothing there, friends. So they had to start from scratch. They had to build homes and find food and all that good stuff. However, the soil was poor and rocky, and little grew crops. Also, the harsh winter came quickly, and the Pilgrims were not ready. So when they got there, it was almost winter time, so they had to build their homes, try to find food, but winter was coming. During the winter, many pilgrims became sick, weak, cold, and hungry. Half of the group had died by spring. So what happened next was one of my favorite parts of the story. Squanto and the Native Americans began sharing their farming skills. Can you believe that? So when the pilgrims got there, they thought nobody was there. Well, the truth is, these Native Americans right here, they had been here many years before the pilgrims even got there. And so Squanto and the rest of his Native American friends saw that they were having trouble, so they decided to share their skills with them because they had lived there forever, so they knew what animals were there to hunt, they knew how to farm the land, all that good stuff. So the Native Squanto and the Native Americans were super nice to the Pilgrims. They were very, very kind and wanted to help them. They taught the Pilgrims how to plant crops, hunt, and fish. I love how the Native Americans were trying to help them. But please remember, friends, the Pilgrims were not. I apologize for that. But please remember, friends, that a lot of people think the Pilgrims found this land and nobody was there. That's not the truth. The Native Americans had been here long before they even got here. The Pilgrims celebrate. In the fall, the Pilgrims held a celebration for the blessings of a good harvest. Thanks to Squanto, the Pilgrims were surviving in their new environment. This celebration would be known as Thanksgiving. So again, Squanto and the rest of his Native American friends helped the new Pilgrims learn how to hunt and fish and crop on this new land that they decided to settle on. And because of that, they wanted to say thank you to them. So they had the first Thanksgiving. They took what they had um, planted and they harvested it and they had a big celebration. Okay, friends, now the thing that I want you to realize though is that is not where the story ends. Sadly, the pilgrims that came, they kept wanting to take over the Native Americans' land and things like that. Really, really mean things. So unfortunately, while we celebrate Thanksgiving, and I think it's important to take a day, especially at least one day, to say what you're thankful for and realize what you're thankful for. But for a lot of Native Americans, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving the same way. They feel that this was a time that their ancestors that lived during this time, that they were hurt and taken advantage of and things like that. So sadly, because the pilgrims at that time that settled in this area, they took advantage of the Native Americans and they tried to take over and things like that and do mean things to them. Native Americans today, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in the same way, most of them. They feel that their ancestors were hurt and harmed during this time, and that's no reason to celebrate. So for them, on Thanksgiving, they remember all their loved ones that lived during that time, and they just try to remember them in good ways and thank them for their time being here and all that good stuff. But please remember that. If there's a couple things that I want you to remember, I want you to remember that the Pilgrims were not the first people on this land. When they came off the Mayflower, they thought they were, but they weren't. Native Americans had been here long before them, and the Native Americans were super nice and came to help them and taught them how to hunt and fish and plant things And they did all of that. And at first, their relationship was okay. But the longer we went on, we saw the Pilgrims settling in this area take advantage of them and do harm to the Native Americans. So please remember those two things. Um, and what we're going to do the next couple days is we are going to learn more about Thanksgiving, specifically some of our customs that we might do here in our country to celebrate the holiday. So please remember, it's wonderful to celebrate with your family and friends. It's wonderful to say thank you for everything God has given you. But I do want you to remember that the Native Americans were here first and that they tried to help the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims took their help, and at first their relationship was good, but then it got bad because the Pilgrims were doing some not nice things to them. So I want you to just remember those, okay? But still celebrate and still thank God for everything He's given you because it is a great holiday. I think it's an amazing holiday to remember our history of the first Thanksgiving, but we just need to remember the correct history. All right? So now what you're going to do is on Seesaw, you're going to color the coloring page and post that to Seesaw. I have also attached two videos for you to watch. One video is of the life of Native Americans, what it would be like to be a Native American. And then the other video is what it would be like to be living like a pilgrim. So go ahead and watch those, color your picture, and then next week we're going to spend some time looking at some customs that we do here in our country to celebrate Thanksgiving. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys later. Bye.